Good morning, everyone. It's the 6th of May 2013. It's a bank holiday Monday, so I'm out in the, countryside near my house, and there's nobody around, so it's a fantastic... I hope there's no one around. I still get that paranoia about speaking openly, because when you're talking about controversial subjects, I do hate the curtain twitching kind of looks that people give you, like, what's this guy doing? Is he a bit crazy? Like that stupid asshole receptionist outside Salford City Council who came out. He goes, "What the hell are you doing? Eh?" Anyway, that kicks off this video very nicely. I just like to give a disclaimer here. If you don't want a negative video, if you do not want negativity or realism in your life right now, you can stop watching this and you can watch some other positive video or a positive video from my past. But this video is going to be full of hate, because my heart is filled with hate and resentment and anger and righteous indignation and 10,000 other adjectives of my interpretation of what's happening and what's always been happening in the ongoing kind of battle between left brain and right brain. It's very true that the system exists at all levels. It exists within activist groups. It exists within Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, capitalists, socialists, communists. And the system is the kind of hierarchical dominance culture, the social Darwinist predatory system. And that's what I mean by system when I say system. That civilizations seem incapable of escaping this system. And there's been only a few states throughout history for the last 1,000 years or so that have not had major upheavals or war. And Switzerland is one of those. And from what I understand, the Swiss stability model does not come from moral righteousness. It comes from a maintained hierarchical structure of dominating extremely rich people, convincing those less rich and less fortunate around them that revolution isn't worth it. Stay rich, stay rich. How can I be so full of hate when the beautiful sun is streaming down on my face and illuminating everything around me? The more you spend time in the reality, in the frame of mind of freedom, of emancipation, of trying to understand why men try and dominate other men, I think the greater your rage, it starts rising and rising. And one of the kind of pressure release valves for this rage and indignation is to fall down the rabbit hole of love and light spirituality. And this is very, very beneficial to the powers that be, to those who have a murderous interest in maintaining the hierarchy and the status quo. They will want you to worship Martin Luther King rather than the Black Panthers. They will want you to only remember Mahatma Gandhi rather than the Indian resistance that blew up trains and decapitated British officials. History always wants you to remember the Love and Light Brigade, the ones who did action through inaction. So much of modern society is unforgivable in any stretch or imagined sense of the word unforgivable. Every day you're bombarded with at least, an infinite number of reasons why you should be a revolutionary, why you should hate the current paradigm and the current system, and why you should be putting all your energy towards destroying it, destroying the current paradigm, the current system. It's so hard to put into words. On my walk over here, I was listening to music, I was listening to Infected Mushroom, and it was great beats happening, and very good mathematically defined beats and break beats. And I have an internal monologue I interview myself and I ask myself questions and I answer them very lucidly and very eloquently, and as I walk along, the force of my argument seems inescapable, it seems overwhelming. And then when I sit down and stick a camera in my own face, it's so much harder to just come out with that which in an internal monologue makes so much sense. And I don't use the label love police anymore. We're not at a point, or at a small enough point, where love can possibly do anything. I mean, love can work against other right-brained people who still have a conscience. But when your adversary or the machine men that run and control and dominate and brutalize the machine culture, they don't see your right brain, they don't see your creative or spiritual or whatever you want to call it, your quantum mechanical uncertainty principled computer that is your brain. All they see is a big bag of flesh and bone that needs to be herded and moved around like livestock. I'm so angry, I'm so pissed off with people and so pissed off with politics and pissed off with the economy that there isn't enough of a distaste I can express for the British political establishment, the British royalty, and the American and Canadian political establishment. And of course, in fact, let's say it, every government is a mind control organization. Every government is to impose a sadistic, violence-based, force-based, authoritarian monopoly on the rest of the society. And so many suckers of Satan's cock will try and argue that, progress and thriving and human dignity is only possible in a stable nation where one authority has power. This is no different from what Machiavelli was saying. This is no different from what Thomas Hobbes was saying. This is no different than what fucking Plato in his Republic were saying. It's the dominance culture. It's the perfect reflection of the Darwinian mentality. We see a pride of lions mutilate and kill a bunch of gazelles, and those lions get bigger and stronger. And people for thousands of years have based their governments on the state of nature. And that's great if you're an animal. That's great if you're a non-human sentient lion. It's great if you're a snake. It's even great if you're a band of chimpanzees. But for humanity, for us incredible hairless apes with overclocked primate graphics card brains, for us who are able to abstract ideas in our mind, for us who are able to empathize at the suffering of others, for us who cannot watch a child be hurt or killed without that welling of, it's an energy which, it's like a fury, it's a murderous fury I feel when I see children hurt and I see adults deep in their apathy not caring about the hurting of children. And I speak specifically of targeted assassination by machine pilotless drones, where they drop a laser-guided paveway 2,000 or 5,000 pound weight bomb on a suspected Taliban militant using paid for bad information from people on the ground who are looking for a payday. If you're going to snitch on the Taliban, if you're going to earn your $10,000, you might not always be providing the right information. And we have the British Queen, we have the British Prime Minister David Cameron, we have his deputy Nick Clegg, we have his Finance Minister George Osborne, the Foreign Secretary, William Hague. You have the Home Secretary, Theresa May. All these people who a long time shed off their human conscience and are demonstrating their ability psychopathically to follow orders and to tell other young working class men in a camouflaged uniform to fly a remote controlled aircraft over a wedding party in Afghanistan and to drop a very, very large bomb on a wedding party which kills 20 children. And you see the local Afghans, they line up the little bodies in little rags, little bloodied rags. You've got 20 children with their skulls caved in, with eyeballs missing, with limbs chopped off, disemboweled, pale and grey as death is, the apathy of the left-brained West. When you try and raise the arguments of how evil, and I mean evil in the true forever sense of the word evil, the lacking in good. When you try and bring up the argument of how evil the political and economic leadership in the West is, you're met with the slavish, morally relativistic, little bitchy little arguments, the bad cognitive associative arguments of people who say, well, you think we're so bad? Imagine if the Russians were the world power. Imagine if the Chinese were the world power. They'd be doing just as much. They'd be invading countries for oil. We don't bomb those children on purpose. They're collateral damage. And it's this weak argument we hear time and time again. People are basically saying, if we don't rape and bomb children, if we don't do it, other people will. I must rape and bomb these children because if I don't do it, if I don't support those who do, other people will. You can simplify this argument until it gets even more absurd. If that isn't absurd enough, you could say, well, see that woman over there? We have to rape her because if we don't rape her, another group of strangers will. And if you don't understand the ridiculousness of that non-argument, then switch off this video right now and go outside and have a think. The political leadership in this country and in the West, another unforgivable thing they've done is their financial and political support for families or regimes which are the antithesis of human dignity and progress and liberation. Just to name two countries run by their own special types of bureaucracies. One is a bloodline, that is the Saudi Arabian state. And to give you, I used to live in Arabia, and then the House of Saud, as very similar to the British royal family, the House of Saud was the most violent and most murderous tribe at the time. And so they elected themselves as royalty. And so Arabia became Saudi Arabia. It'd be like David Cameron deciding he's royalty, and well, he actually is. He's actually a distant cousin of the Queen. But it'd be like David Cameron deciding this is now Cameronian Britain. That's what it is. Britain to Cameronian Britain. Arabia to Saudi Arabia. And the amount of trade and financial assistance and commerce and economy and basically making a deal with the devil we've done with Saudi Arabia. It's a shameful, shameful thing. But in my opinion, even, well, actually no, on the same level of shame, is how Britain and America cannot get enough trade and financing from China. China is a one-party dictatorship. It's a bureaucratic Politburo dictatorship. I do not have enough knowledge to understand if there are bloodlines ruling within the Chinese Communist Party. But if we just look at the facts of the one-child policy over the last many decades in China, you make a deal with the devil, in the metaphorical sense. You make a deal with pure evil. You let it into your house, you let it into your soul, you take it under your eyelids when you positively deal with people who are horrifically evil. One result of the one-child policy, the anti-natalism of the Chinese state, is that now in China there are, at the most conservative estimates, 50 million men, males, for whom there is no opposite female. There's 50 million men, there's 50 million more men in China than there are women. 50 million, that's almost the entire population of Great Britain. 50 million men, 50, try and get your head around what kind of number that is. That's 1/6 the population of the United States. That's twice the population of Canada. That's twice the population of Australia. Of men for whom there is no genetic future, for whom the thought of a monogamous, loving, long-term wife is an impossibility. It's a physical and mathematical, it's just a fucking certainty that there are no women for these 50 million men. It could be 70 million men, for all we know, because of the aborting of female fetuses, because they prefer men, you know, they prefer men. Patriarchal dominant societies tend to prefer men. So, what do you think China, a country with restricted travel and censorship, is going to do with 50 million angry, horny, desperate young men? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you guessed it correctly. You guessed it correctly. They're probably going to be employed as soldiers of conquest. Soldiers whose young, horny, desperate for a female partner heads will be filled up with stories of maidens, of virgins, of plunder. A man who has no future, a man who has been brought up under a dictatorship of the mind, a man whose forebearers sold out after Tiananmen Square and did not continue the fight, but took the economic progress in return for their obedience. You can get a young man who does not have a partner, who does not have hope of a partner, to commit any atrocity in the name of a future partner. Just look at the controls on young men in the Islamic world and the taboos on dating young females because they all must remain virgins before marriage. It's very easy to convince an angry man to blow himself up and kill other innocent civilians if he is promised sexy women in the afterlife. But for the Chinese secular model, for the Chinese model, those 50 million men will be promised glory and sex from conquest. And this is going to happen soon because 50 million womanless men can create quite a political disturbance at home, domestically. You don't want 50 million angry men to start rioting in China. In terms of cannon fodder for for the future World War III. 50 million horny men is good cannon fodder. And I despair. I despair at how every day our hierarchies collapse on principle, on morality, into people who are no better. Absolutely morally no better than the Soviet guards who pulled the trigger outside the mass graves, in the gulags. They're no better than the concentration camp guards. Godwin's Law, here we are, 20 minutes in, he's talking about Hitler's soldiers. David Cameron, by doing business with Saudi Arabia and the Chinese, is no better than a concentration camp guard who shoots a small child in the back of the head, or who gasses a chamber full of innocent, young, old men, women and children. You deal positively with murderers, you are a murderer. You allow depraved psychopaths into your house to deal with your family, you're as bad as a psychopath. You're a willing assistant to rape and murder. I struggle to walk around central Manchester now. It angers and depresses me too much. I don't recognize human beings anymore walking around. The brainwashing and the totalitarian nature of the culture we live in is so powerful that it's made people into disgusting, wobbling creatures that I cannot stand to look at. I cannot stand to even be in the same vicinity as most people. I've become a very solitary loner for this reason. I don't have other people in my videos. I don't socialize with lots of people. I don't believe in lots of people. This is the hypocrisy culture. This is the hater society. The self-hating, hypocritical, sold out your soul, sold out your morality for a bit of money, for a bit of security. You sold that liberty. You sold it. You finished it. You subjected it to evil, and it became evil. You became evil. There was something exciting, and there was something righteous about megaphoning 4 years ago, about the kind of love and light, summer type, spiritual hugging the police, of trying to inspire people, and the work I did with Danny and the Everything Is Okay videos and a lot of the Love Police videos. They were good for their time. But I think they, much like every other very positive movement in the past, small light aircraft flying over, you can probably hear that in the anyone else in England today, 6th of May, do you have a blazing blue sky which has been rendered deeply milky and not cloudy even, it's just a haze, a thick, shiny, silvery grey haze? It's just another thing to be so angry at the hierarchy for, at the leaders in inverted commas for, is for the blatant geoengineering ideas they're talking about. And it is my suspicion that there are covert geoengineering tricks, missions being carried out around the world. And they want to fight global warming. That's their kind of positive, yay, left brain, we're going to do a good thing. We're going to use more technology, more burning of fossil fuels to fight, global warming. And it has an epic effect. Like, I am here. It's 10:30, but it's, oh, I'm snotty nose, forgive me. I'm here, it's 10:30. the sun. There's no clouds, there's just this incredible haze, and I can hardly feel it. I can hardly feel the sun on me. It's disgusting. That's not even a cloud, it's that silvery grey haze. And that's the thing, this is the arrogance of the left-brained, machine-like society, is that not only does it think it has authority to control the weather that you have, and geoengineering, they're not going to vote on it. They're not going to vote, they're not going to get a public fucking discussion going, they're just going to do it. And maybe they are doing it, maybe that's why. Over Manchester today, it's a very, very strange looking sky. And like, look, it could be natural. It could be natural, but intuitively it doesn't feel natural, it doesn't feel right. Okay, it's now 26 minutes into the video. Really, with my affirmation of indigene, that we are indigene, that we are of this land, that we have a birthright for freedom to do what we want, to travel where we want. The affirmation of indigene is very against the technological society we live under. I cannot stand the world we currently live in. I'm so angry, I'm so filled with hate. And it's a hate that I will not repress. It's a hate which I will not allow those people who repress their own hate to try and control mine. Hate is healthy. Hate is necessary when you're in a hateful condition and you realize this. Hate can give you the energy to do what needs to be done. My heart has been slowly filling with hate over the last, 32 years. And I'm approaching my 33rd birthday now. It does seem like the logical conclusion of our Darwinist predatory system will be to eat itself, for it to predate on itself. Because soon you're going to have a few very large supergroups. European Union and NATO, and then you're going to have China and Russia and Iran. And they're going to want to consume the other. And there's a level of barbarity in the human psyche that comes from the evolution of primates, of dominance, that it won't be enough for the West to trade with China. The ego of China, the collective ego of a nation that was once glorious, fell on hard times and is now being promised a promised land of glory. Much like the Germany in the 1930s were promised a great lot of glory. Just stay strong, just fight for us, and we will bring Germany back to glory. This patriotism, this collective ego of China, coupled with 50 million young angry men who would love a Thailand wife, a Thai wife, or a Cambodian wife, Japanese wife. They'd probably rape those ones, you know. The Chinese and Japan don't have a good history. But modern living has created the fucking metaphor is, say you work for the RSPCA, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. And let's say you got reports from people that they say, oh, our neighbour, we think he's breeding animals. We think he's breeding animals. The smell is terrible. We hear screams. We hear howls. We think he's torturing animals. And the RSPCA get a warrant. They turn up with the police. And we see these videos all the time in the British news. All the fucking time. They turn up with their camera. in their camcorder, the RSPCA officers, and they walk in and the door opens. And it's dead animals mixed with living animals, mixed with disabled animals, mixed with diseased and tortured animals everywhere, spilling out of cages, breeding like crazies, dying of starvation, dying of thirst, attacking each other, rabid dogs, disemboweled cats, birds, pigeons, all fucking nasty, all cruelly treated. And all these animals, when they try and take them individually, to take them back to the kennels, to save them, they're the most violent and scared and nasty animals. They want to kill, they want to rip, they want to bite. And 99%, to put a figure on it, of human beings in society are these depraved, hypocritical, hateful people. And most people manage to hide their hate in day-to-day. They manage to stay smiley and wear their fashions and watch football and fill up their tanks of gasoline and petrol in their car and turn up at work, and they get to moan at the TV when they see the politicians. They get to go on anti-bedroom tax fucking marches. They get to talk about socialism and yay, wouldn't it be nice if we had nice governments. They get to fucking rant every day, fucking every day, as long as they stay in the cage. People have been rendered into disgusting, inhuman creatures. They sold out. They've sold out so hard. And I'm afraid the only thing that people who sell out and who give up their morality deserve is a fucking righteous punch in the face. And that punch can come in, I'm just speaking metaphorically here, in terms of truth, in terms of whatever, but the disgusting state of humanity does need to be addressed. And I, for one, will not ever sell out to people who are apathetic about killing children, who are apathetic about the control of minds, of hearts. The British establishment is one of the longest running and most insidious establishments on earth. The privilege, the entitlement, the Darwinian, self-assured fucking dominance of these people. For every action, they say, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And the logical conclusion of everyone who believes in power and security and domination is that you will get your just desserts 10 times stronger. For all these dictators that hurt the people, for all the people who will follow orders, you will get yours. You will.